So the SEC is going to a 9-game schedule. Is this really a good idea? Yes and no.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein can't be with us today. He is traveling, so we will have him on shortly. I do want to get his comments, obviously, about the 9-game SEC schedule because it's going to be a big deal. However, I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and I'll talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. I decided to go live today because this 9-game schedule thing is such a big deal. And I'm passionate about it in the sense that I'm torn. And I wanted to go live because I wanted to get you guys comments because I can certainly see it both ways. I'll say this. I think on the surface, it looks like Greg Sankey caved because we haven't gotten any details yet about how much more money the SEC is getting. And I just assumed the whole time that it would take a lot more money from ESPN and Disney for the SEC to go to 9 games. So I would have liked to have seen that the SEC announced that they're getting so much more money for this instead of just doing it because it does look like they caved to the pressure. And the timing is bad because it also comes at a time when Indiana is scheduling the Colorado School of Mimes and, places like that, as if they're snubbing, turning up their nose at the SEC. And it seems like we sort of did it as a reactionary thing. Now, I do think this is certainly better for the fans. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I will say this, and I've been saying this for a long time. I think this goes unspoken too often, that there is a positive to playing the Mercers and the Alabama States and the South Alabamas and the Mississippi Valley States, whoever, Middle Tennessees. There is a positive to that. And the positive is that the game has gotten so expensive to take one person, let alone a family, that when you have a game that is not incredibly desirable, you can take your family, take young children. Y'all know me. I've got several kids, and I took a bunch of them back in the day. And when I would take my younger kids when they were younger, it was difficult because, eventually they would want to leave. They would get bored. I mean, they're 3, 4, 2, 6, whatever. And they're like, hey, Dad, it's time to go. And you really got to go when the kids say they got to go. So you don't want to spend $400 a ticket to take them and then have to leave early. I've done that before and it stinks. So there is a positive to that. I also think there's a positive in that it funds and basically sustains some of these smaller universities. Now, I do think this is much better for the fans. Here's the problem. It's going to be so much tougher on the SEC. I mean, the SEC coaches are big-time losers here because, first of all, now the SEC obviously I think is going to get more money. I say obviously, ostensibly, I think it's going to get more money. But what's going to happen is the expectations are going to grow because now there's so much more money. Schools are going to be spending more on coaches. The buyouts will get bigger. Everything's going to be bigger. And so everybody's going to have these demands. Everybody's going to have these expectations, no matter what your former records are, no matter what your history is. And because of seemingly parity with NIL and things like that, there's going to be more expectations on schools that typically don't have those kind of expectations. I mean, they might individually, but they know it's unreasonable. Like Mississippi State, no offense to the Bulldogs, I appreciate Mississippi State, but they can have an expectation of greatness but to my knowledge, they've never won a national championship, and they've only been in the SEC title game one time, and they hadn't won a league title since God knows when. So they can have an expectation of greatness, but it's unreasonable. And we all get that. And I think they even understand that. Now, let's talk about how this affects the SEC too. And Dolomite says, and I appreciate you joining us live, I'll take the 9 games as long as the Big Ten adds the extra Power 4 non-con. I'm with you on that. Here's hoping that they do that. Because see, that's where like Indiana bothered me so much. I mean, who the heck do the Hoosiers think they are scheduling Howard and the like, and not scheduling anybody else of any consequence, and then turning their nose up at the SEC? I thought that was so sad for a team that finally did something on the national scene and probably didn't even really deserve to be where they were. Now, the problem with the SEC, when you're talking about, you've got Texas and Bama and Georgia and LSU and Florida and Texas A&M and Oklahoma. I mean, you've got teams with tons of money. You've got teams with tons of tradition. And you've got up-and-coming teams like an Ole Miss, like a Missouri, like a South Carolina. And then you got teams that have, fluctuated between the two, like Auburn, that at, any given time they can be very good. Now, they can go stretches of being pretty bad, as we've seen. But what I'm saying, Dwayne says they did announce the numbers, meaning I'm assuming the money on Jocks this morning. I hadn't seen that, so I'll just check that out later. But when you've got all those teams involved here, and they all have their own varying degrees of great history. I mean, I mentioned, I'm not trying to pick on Auburn here, but think about it. Auburn is a top 18 program all time. And they're probably the 7th or 8th best team in the SEC all time, now that Oklahoma and Texas have joined. I mean, that's bananas. So that tells you how good this conference is. And so what I want the SEC to be very careful about is to not cannibalize themselves. I'm looking at the Buckeyes schedule this year. They don't play Oregon, and see, I'll give them a little credit. They do play Illinois, and they do play Penn State, and they do play Michigan, but they don't play USC. They don't play Oregon. And see, I don't want Alabama to have to play LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn. I don't think that's right. If Alabama gets LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn as their 3 permanent opponents, I think that is grossly unbalanced, especially when you think about the rumor is Auburn's going to get Alabama, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Look, the best case scenario to me for everybody would be Alabama, Auburn's going to stay. Alabama, Tennessee's going to stay. And then I think Alabama should get Mississippi State. And here's my reasoning. I love the LSU game. I really do. But I've just pulled it up on Winsipedia. And shout out to my main man and Alabama graduate, one of the dudes who founded Winsipedia. He went to Alabama and he listens to the pod, and I appreciate him. And Winsipedia is a great site. We're going to get him on this show because it's a great site. If you've never been to Winsipedia, just Google it, and it gives you everything you want. What a fantastic idea. I wish I thought of it. But think about this for a second. So Alabama and LSU, the ranking, the game head-to-head matchup, Alabama 57 wins, LSU 27, and 5 ties. So, but when you look at Alabama, Mississippi State, it's 88, 17, and 3. So, yeah, I know that it seems pretty lopsided on the Mississippi State side, but it's pretty lopsided on the LSU side too, in favor of Alabama both ways. So I know ESPN wants that game. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a marquee game. But for competitive balance and for the betterment of the SEC, because you want your teams to have the best shot to get in. And if Alabama has to play Tennessee, Auburn, and LSU every year, coupled with the other rotations of Texas and Georgia and Florida and Oklahoma, whatever, dude, that's too much. I mean, yeah, there'll be some years where Alabama might get Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt on the rotation. and fine. But I think they should be given a bit more of a lower caliber squad versus, I mean, LSU, Auburn, and Tennessee would be, and you take out Alabama, those would be 3 of the top 6, maybe top 7 programs in the SEC of all time. Again, take out Alabama because they can't play themselves. But yeah. Now, Dwayne posted this, and I appreciate it. Per CBS, Brandon Marcello, the move will net each SEC school an average of about $5 million per year. Okay, so they get an extra $5 million a year, and obviously that's not chump change. But I'm down with this move. It feels like looking at these comments, a lot of you guys are down with this move, and I certainly understand it makes a lot of sense. I just want I want it to be good for the SEC, not just, hey, people want to see y'all play 9 games, and so just play the best 9 games you can play. Look, you got to make it as balanced as possible, because here's the thing: Tennessee's going to get Vandy as one of their permanent opponents, and Tennessee is historically one of the top 6, 7 teams in the SEC, so they get Vandy, right? And they get Bama. There's no doubt. You got to give them either Georgia or Florida. You've got to. You can't give them Kentucky. That's just not right for everybody else. How does it all work? How does the math all work? I mean, in my opinion, what I would do is make sure Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky can sort of work each other in the permanent opponent loop. I think that would be the best thing to do, because those historically are 3 of the worst programs. And I don't mind them playing each other, because I don't think it's going to matter. And I don't think it hurts the SEC when they beat up on each other. But if you let if you have Georgia, let's say Georgia, their permanent opponents are Florida, Auburn, and Texas, that's just not right. I mean, it should be something like Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. I think that's very fair. Yeah, South Carolina's gotten a little better, but I think most people don't believe that's going to be sustained long term. I mean, South Carolina is what they are. So I think that's very fair. And again, Florida hadn't been as good as South Carolina lately, but we know that that's probably going to flip-flop before too long. So that's where I am with all this. I'm really, really hoping it's going to be Bama taking on Tennessee, Auburn, and Mississippi State. I think that is certainly the best way to go here, and I think that's the most fair way when it comes to talking about the SEC and competitive balance. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Thomas Castellanos and why he just won't hush. But as it stands, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel. You know I love FanDuel. I've talked about FanDuel forever, and FanDuel's the absolute best, and you know it's the best. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. I would take a flyer on Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry. Honestly, I think Derrick Henry may still get it at age 31. I don't care. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Days is one day and one day only. At FanDuel, you can play your game. Okay, so Thomas Castellanos, he just won't hush. And it's so confusing, because he talks trash, and then he's caught on video basically saying, hey, I only talk trash to try and fire up my team. And then he talks more trash, and it seems so disingenuous. But what he said recently was that he thinks Florida State's defense is the best defense he'll play all year. Okay. I mean, I don't think that's right. If you look at Florida State, they are a team loaded with transfers, good transfers. I think Florida State's a good team. I'm going to the game. I hope to see some of you there. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I just hope it doesn't rain. But I don't mind complimenting your own defense. I think when you say something like that before a game against Alabama, you are just inviting trouble. And I just don't understand why he's doing that. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's not forget, Thomas Castellanos was benched at Boston College. Thomas Castellanos has also said this is on record. He said, if I had to do it over, I probably wouldn't have left Boston College. It just feels like he is multiple personalities here. So the one catch to all this is now there is pressure on Alabama to have to perform very well in this game. Look, the line is 13.5. And I think if Alabama doesn't cover that spread, there will be some people with raised eyebrows like, what's wrong with Alabama? Because the conventional wisdom, I've seen a lot of YouTube shorts. I've seen a lot of other Alabama podcasts and YouTube channels talk about, man, they have no idea what's coming. Thomas Castellanos, he's going to be eating grass all day. Well, we better go out there and do it then. Because, again, if Thomas Castellanos comes out and has a Zach Calzada, Johnny Manziel sort of game against us, Stephen Garcia, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. So here's hoping that Alabama does come out and do very well. We're going to get you all prepped for this game this week. Jimmy and I can't wait to talk about this Florida State game. This is going to be an absolute blast, a ton of fun. We are really, really looking forward to it. Just hope it doesn't rain because I don't want that to affect the contest at all. One other thing I wanted to talk about tonight before we get off is that high school football started last night. I know some of you probably watched Zion Gibson. He seemed to have a big game. Jamarian Matthews, he seemed to be playing really well. Tonight, I'm going to be calling the Maplesville against Fife game. And, that's going to be a fun game in Crampton Bowl. Sadarian Morgan opens up tonight at home against Opelika here where I am in Alexander City. And my buddies, Brett Pritchard and Randy Lee, will be on the call. They're both Auburn guys, but they love them some Sadarian Morgan. So I'm looking forward to seeing about him. I would highly recommend you guys subscribe to the NFHS network. I'm not getting paid to say that. I just think it's a lot of fun to check out a lot of these games. And so really looking forward to Trent Seaborn had a big game last night. Thompson gets a monster win. And the Trent Seaborn is just looking better and better. He's got certainly a super sporting cast, but just a great player, great kid. And I think in the end, he's going to end up at Alabama. So you might want to be paying attention to him. All right, that's going to do it for today's pod. This is an abbreviated pod. Just had to talk about this 9-game schedule. Appreciate everybody chiming in. You guys are the absolute best. We will be back no later than Sunday. Now, we may be back Saturday. It depends on what Jimmy is got going on, but he's got some other family things going on and responsibilities. So trying to give him all the space he needs with that. And appreciate you guys so much. Please do hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to us. And until next time, roll tide, everybody.